will be, I'm sorry everyone, I am sharing that we are recording now. As you know, we share these out with you all after the sessions. I will give a brief welcome in about 1 minute, just kind of explain what the plan is for this session, and then we'll go right into it. We'll start with Morgan State's video. First, the advisory board members who we have present, who also, as you all may know, serve as some of the judges for the showcase. They will provide feedback and tips for you all for the pitch. What you will then be able to do is go back and apply the feedback, and then we'll have this presentation. But I'll get into all of that in 1 minute, Kimberly. Thank you. All right, it's 12:05, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome once again, everyone. It's so good to see all of the teams that are represented here today. It is a pleasure to join you and to have you join us. Again, I am Neela White. I'm one of the co-PIs for the HBCU Making an Innovation Showcase. I am joined by Dr. Iris Wagstaff, who serves as the PI for this project. And we are also joined by our amazing advisory board committee, who many of you may have met already. They serve as the showcase judges, but I will just briefly call out those who are available right now. We'll have a few more who will be joining us as the session goes on. We have Dr. Laura Collins, who is here with us. She is at North Carolina A&T University. We have Brandon Andrews. Brandon Andrews serves as a talent scout for Shark Tank, and he has a lot of great things. I know you're working on Homecoming, All-American Homecoming right now, Brandon, is that true? Yep, he's giving the nod, saying yes to that. We also have Lakeisha Greenwade, who's with Wearable Tech Ventures. And I thought that there was one more advisory board member. No, we have Kavita Mitapalli, who you all have met before or will meet this year. She serves as our external evaluator. And then you will be meeting shortly Dr. Jennifer Stimson, who is our guest presenter today. So what we'll be doing is taking the time today to view the pitches that have come from our student teams in response to our call for applications for the showcase. Each of you have taken the time to put together these prototypes to answer a solution to one of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. And as a member of the AAAS team, and for speaking on behalf of the advisory board members, we are truly excited to see what you all have come up with. We are really excited to see the innovations that you all have created, what you all have thought about. We know that this is a process, so we know that you all may be still innovating this prototype. You're still in the process of getting it together. We do not expect these pitches to be a final pitch. We do not expect you all to have everything done right now. We just know that this is a process, and that is a part of the innovation process, that you will be going through these steps. So do not feel in any way that we're expecting a final product today. That's not it. We really wanted to use this year to really support you throughout the journey, not just as you show up for the in-person showcase. So take the advice, the feedback from our advisory board members to support you all. Take it to apply it to what you can do for your pitch. Again, this is to support you when you come into the showcase in Washington, D.C. and do the in-person pitch. The idea is that these video pitches are a way to A, put out media content about your prototype, and B, to practice your actual pitch that you will be providing and sharing with us in September. So use this opportunity again to just really work on your craft, to work on the advice that's provided to you all. Ask questions. We have the experts here. We have our advisory board members here. So feel free to ask any questions while you have them on here. And the plan is that after submitting this one and after receiving the feedback from our advisory board members, you will go back and you can redo your pitch. This is a great way, again, as we're innovating, as we're looking at this full process, you will redo your pitch. And then at the end of July into August, you'll resubmit the pitch to me. I will share it with the advisory board members, and then they will contact you all via email directly with any additional comments that they may have. Again, this is in preparation for the in-person pitch. So Any questions that you have, use this time today. We look forward to seeing everything. We look forward to you all redoing the pitch. And after we go through that process, we'll have a wonderful presentation by Dr. Jennifer Stimson. I encourage you all to, again, take the time to ask questions of her. She'll be talking about her experience as a AAAS If-Then ambassador. And so you'll be able to hear from her very shortly, but I will get started. I am going to pull up our first presentation that's coming from Morgan State University. So I'm going to share my screen and pull up video. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pause my screen. Let me stop it really quickly. Are there any questions while I'm waiting to pull this up? Any questions that any of the team members have? Okay, here we go. Let's pull this back up. All right, here we go.
Neela, did you hit share sound via computer?
You said share sound via computer?
Yeah, it's
You
under
can hear it?
share the sound. Yeah, check that button. We don't hear it. Let me see if I can do it.
Tell me if you can hear it now. Can you hear now? Click share sound.
A few of the features
Okay,
for our
over.
app that
My apologies.
Hi, I'm Mansoura Jaihani, a professor in the Department of Transportation and Urban Infrastructure Studies at Morgan State University. The objective of this project is to make an application for cyclists. So bike riders can use this app and find out the best routes and the safest routes, and also they get warning when they get to high crash areas. They also can use that app to connect with each other.
we are making an app, and a few of the features for our app that we want to include would be basically safety features, such as informing cyclists where there's potholes, where there's a lot of accidents, the worst areas to ride their bikes in, simply just like that. It's also supposed to be including a GPS system, which is basically, in my mind, is going to be a way to let bicyclists know where the best places are for them to cycle or ride their bikes. And basically it'll let them know where all the bike lanes are, essentially, and let them know where the highest rates are for accidents and stuff like that.
We're also trying to develop the app in a way that eventually it's gonna be a platform as a social media, specifically designed for the cyclists to find the people that they are living there nearby, and also they have the same interests. Specifically, it's gonna be very good for underrepresented population. We are developing this mobile app to help cyclists around the United States, mainly to find their path, the easiest path, the shortest path, and also the safest path.
We used Swift programming language to develop our app, and hopefully it will be available for any iOS users.
All right, that was our first team from Morgan State. Great job, round of applause. Good job. Great job. All right. Do we have any immediate feedback from any of our judges? Laura, your hand is up. You can go ahead.
As an aspirational bicyclist, I want to know elevation change. You tell me it's a short path, but I want to know if that's a massive hill or not. But I love this idea of making things easier for bicyclists and also raising the visibility with regard to safety. I think that's one of a real challenge. Cities talk about being bike friendly environments, and then you see these kind of terrible bike lanes. So giving some actual data on that is a great idea.
Thank you very much, Colin. Yes, absolutely. We are doing our best. Hopefully it's going to be very useful. And regarding the elevation, that's a brilliant point that we definitely will look into that in more detail. Thank you for bringing that up. I would say right now we are focusing on the longitudinal and lateral, mainly for GPS, but that's a brilliant point, specifically when it comes to Baltimore's, which we have lots of uphill and downhill. That's super necessary. Thank you very much. I will dig into that.
And that might be a next generation kind of thing, but if you're thinking about sort of analogous to hikes, for those of us who don't know much, you know, they grade, like, what are you getting into? But again, the safety of those paths is probably paramount for bicyclists. But then the next is, how much work is it going to be?
No, awesome point. Thank you so much, Ms. Collins. Thank you.
Lakeisha, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I'm excited about this ideation and opportunity to develop this app. Speaking from the wearable tech space, there's been a lot of work that's been done with communicating a lot of these particular factors for bicyclists. Particularly, there was a garment that was made with Google and Levi. So I would encourage you to, as you're developing this, to determine how you can enhance some of the signals and the communications to the bicyclists as they're in action. And maybe even, you know, look and see if there's some way to apply that to the body. That would be awesome.
Thank you very much, Ms. Greenwood. Absolutely, that's a brilliant point. I would definitely dig into that one. Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so congrats on what you've built so far. I'd love to hear in the pitch a little bit more about why this issue is important to you all personally, but also why you think this issue has or this app has the potential for a significant positive impact. Are you all riding bikes yourselves and experienced or had a kind of subpar riding experience because of lack of information? What's driving you to address this issue in particular?
Thank you very much, Mr. Andrew. That's a brilliant point. Actually, yeah, in terms of the problem statement, you're absolutely true. We should have highlighted at the beginning of the speech, specifically before our goal, because we wanted to say that these are the important issues, and then that's why we came up with this idea. The main thing is that for some reason we felt that bicyclists are not feeling safe, specifically when they are driving, sometimes in the sidewalk, sometimes in the street. Another one is that we felt that there are lots of social medias. However, there is no social media specifically for cyclists that they would like to find each other. And we thought that this is another gap. This is another lack of information that we can maybe fill this part of it. Besides that, once we were using the scooters and electric bikes, we felt that some sidewalks were not that much smooth. So I wish that I knew that there was a pothole or there was something in advance, or at least when I was finding my final decision, when I was looking for my final destination, I wish that there was an app that telling me that, okay, this is the shortest path, but however, this one is a more smooth or something like that. I felt that there is no such a thing still out there. And we were thinking that because of these gaps, let's come up with an app that providing this information for the cyclists, specifically for cyclists that they prefer to have someone with themselves. For example, if a lady is going to downtown at late night, they might have someone accompanying them. Maybe exactly at the same time is another one is going there. So it might be good for those underrepresented population specifically. And but that's a very brilliant point. And thank you so much. I remember that last year in the competition, you gave us brilliant points as well. Definitely, thank you very much, Brandon. I will definitely make sure that is gonna be more highlight in the final product, the problem statement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah,
So-
I just had, is there a student from Morgan team that's present today?
Yes, I am from Morgan as well.
Ramina, did you have any thoughts on the suggestions from the judges? We definitely like to hear from the students.
Yeah, sure. First, thanks for all the suggestions that you made. I think the most important thing is that we want to develop this app first in Baltimore City. So one thing that is kind of a very important thing in Baltimore City that is happening is that crash rates are very high. And we wanted to develop this app to kind of inform the cyclists where are the hot spots for crash areas. And in this way, they can avoid those areas. And maybe with our app, the crash rate could be kind of a little lower. So that's kind of one of our other goals. And also, we are trying to address as many as UN Sustainable Development Goals as well, like sustainable cities and communities and good health and well-being.
Great, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. We have been able to hear from our current advisory board with your group. So Ramina, I hope you and the team are able to take those suggestions and apply it to develop a new video pitch. And we look forward to seeing that and also obviously seeing you all in September. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your brilliant ideas and comments. Definitely, we would love to hear even more feedbacks. And thank you very much, Neela, for the brilliant organization and everything. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Great. So we will move. Thank you. Do we have any volunteers for our next pitch for the groups that we have on today?
Jackson State can go next.
Perfect. I will go ahead and pull you guys up. One second.
you.
You're welcome.
Hey Christina, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to cook for my family tonight, but I have no clue. I wanted to include something with fresh produce, but the closest store to me is 30 miles away. Do you know how I can find a store closer to me with fresh produce?
You know what? Sheila, Jewel, and Brianna told me about an app that was recently created to help the residents of Wilkinson County, Mississippi, locate local farmers and the produce that they have available. Let me reach out to them.
Okay, thank you. Could you include us in a group chat, please? I have never heard of this app before and would like to know more about it. It sounds like this app will save me travel time if I can visit a local farmer in the area.
Sure, let me create a group chat with all of us. Hey everybody, Alexis asked me about the app that you all were recently telling me about that helps residents in rural areas find fresh produce.
Hi, Christina. Yes, the app is called Veggie Source. It was designed specifically for areas of high risk and food scarcity. It pinpoints growers in community gardens, grocery stores, and supermarkets where fresh produce is available. It even has an order feature. Once you've located your grower or your source, simply go into the order feature in the app, input what you would like, how many, price range, whether you would like it delivered or picked up, your delivery info, and submit.
Oh, they talking about the app. The app aims to reduce inequalities, paying attention to the needs of the disadvantaged and marginalized populations of Wilkinson County, Mississippi, both African American men and women between ages 30 to 50.
Thanks for informing me. I'm definitely downloading this app.
Great job, great job. Excellent job, Jackson State. Very good. So we will, you're welcome. You're very welcome. So we will invite our advisory board members. Okay, we have 3 of our team members from Jackson State here. I believe maybe 4. But feel free to go ahead and chime in, advisory board, with any comments, any suggestions that you have for the team.
Yeah, I thought this was a great explanation of the app and the features, and certainly enjoyed the creativity with the video. I guess a couple of things come to mind for me. One, I guess, where is it available if someone wanted to connect with it, or I know everyone's kind of at different stages, but if it is going to be available, some kind of either statement or link that allows people to follow up from the video. 2, if it's a group chat, it has to have emojis, and so we need some smileys, some veggie emojis, something in there. Because there's no real group chat between friends that doesn't have emojis in it. And then the last thing, and I know there's limited time, but if you wanted to throw some real veggies in there at some point, someone receiving the veggies, or even like a reaction in the group chat to someone receiving veggies with veggie emojis or something like that, I think it would be compelling to, in addition to what you've already created.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, making these comments. I'm writing these down.
I did love the presentation and the format in terms of walking us through like what felt like a real ad for the app and how folks might interact with it. I thought that was really informative. It was great to see a mock-up of the app as well. On the sort of sausage making end of things, although that's a bad reference for a vegetable based app, but it might be interesting to hear sort of how you engaged with the farmers that might be providers of those services. And again, I recognize, as Brandon did, that you don't have that much time and there's a lot to fit into it. Yeah. But I did like the breadth of both the stores that have things available, co-ops, and the farmers, as well as community gardens. It really does sound like you've cast a fairly wide net, but maybe a little bit more detail about how you've identified those. But really nicely done.
Thank you.
I'll chime in here, and my apologies for not having my camera on. Great presentation. Thank you so much. It sounds like something that definitely can be useful. And just to echo what the other advisor said, is basically identifying ways to upload those farmers, identify, additional farmers and resources that can be placed on the app. And once you do that, that kind of helps with the scaling effort, which makes it marketable long term.
Thank you.
Right. I think once again, we've heard from all of our advisory board members. Jackson State, you have, Iris has a comment as well.
I just wanted to mention really quickly, great job. I'm working on 2 grants with the USDA and the FDA. There's $1 million available for projects, especially in low income communities that connect people with healthy living, fresh produce choices. So I'm working on real time grants that focus on this, actually with my high school chemistry teacher from my hometown in Goldsboro, North Carolina. She has a nonprofit where she uses STEM to embed like agricultural concepts, and we have like a farmer's market and all of that. So I'm just saying that there's real money available now to support
that sounds great.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, ladies, you have your call for action for what we can do to work on and improve this pitch, but great job. We look forward to seeing the next iteration of it. So thank you all.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, any volunteers for our next video? Okay, Raquel, I see you have your hand up. Yep, absolutely. I'll pull it up now.
Over the past decade, nutritional recommendations for the consumption of dietary fats have changed. One reason being that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, has now put a ban on the use of partially hydrogenated oils. Consequently, food manufacturers have had to revise their product recipes and remove the hydrogenated oils and reduce saturated fats. This process became difficult because fats are responsible for providing the required structure, texture, and mouthfeel of food products.
Oleogeles are a three-dimensional network created through the oleogelation process, which traps the liquid oil and forms a structure that limits the flow of liquid oil. The liquid oil is converted into a gel-like material without changing the characteristics of the oil. Research from the past decade has shown that oleogeles can be used as a saturated fat substitute.
Probiotics have been shown to have several health benefits, such as heart health, digestion, and improved immunity. However, probiotics are very sensitive to various elements, such as processing, storage, temperature, and pH. Furthermore, for many consumers, when they purchase their supplements, the bacterial count has already been reduced. As a result, the food industry needs improved systems to protect and stabilize the probiotics in food to improve their functionality and viability for consumers' health. With the increased need for fat alternatives and stabilized probiotic delivery systems, we are helping to solve this problem. We are ProGel.
ProGel is an oleogel system that can be used as both a fat substitute and probiotic delivery system in current food products by food manufacturers. This product is not only cost effective, but easily produced and will increase both probiotic functionality and availability for consumers.
Great job, AMC. Great job. Good job. Thank you so much for being willing to share your video. Opening up the floor to our advisory board members. Feel free to just take yourselves off mute and chime in as you see fit. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was a good explanation of the innovation here. However, I think there's some room to connect with the audience in a more significant way. And so I think a lot of people are familiar with probiotics from something like a yogurt, and it's supposed to have good gut health. think about, is there a way for one of you to either act out or through animation or even just through explanation, explain how this would impact someone's life day to day, whether this would be used in a food product or whether this would be, taken orally or used otherwise. And I think again, explanation overall on the technical side was great. And the video, didn't use the entire time allotted, so I think there's some time there to potentially connect with your audience in a more significant way and give people a little bit of a better understanding of how someone might use this day to day. Does that make sense?
Brandon, I think that's an excellent point to talk maybe more granularly. I mean, I think holistically, sort of how the substitution is being made in food products, we got that, but maybe specific examples for those of us who are not necessarily food savvy in terms of those substitutions, and how that you're prioritizing probably the quality of the food. So if the reason probably that those things are in the foods is because, as you point out, there's good mouthfeel, there's good fat content, right? All the good things about that. Maybe talk about how those aren't being lost, or how you're making sure to keep those kinds of qualities, but then also sort of the health benefits. You talk about probiotics and the benefit of those to our diet. Some folks are well versed in that and some of us aren't. So maybe, I don't think you want to necessarily say you can have a potato chip and it's good for you, but if there's some some balance of those health benefits and the food benefits as well in a specific example.
Just echoing what the other advisor said, and often what happens from a technical background and also from a government perspective, there's a campaign, if you will, to use plain language. So just simplifying the message so that a kindergartner or second grader can understand, and also understanding that the attention spans of most are limited these days. So if you could grab that hook early on, then I think everybody will be down to learn a little bit more about probiotics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again, A&T team. We look forward to the revised pitch and obviously again, seeing you all in September. So thank you so much. Any volunteers for our next video?
Alabama
Okay.
A&M.
Okay, sure. And then I will do our second Morgan State team after that. So 1 second. You guys are doing a great job. This is really fun watching these videos and seeing what you all have come up with. All right, Alabama A&M, here we go.
According to Intuition, 67% of students found gamified learning more motivating and engaging than traditional courses. Alongside that, not everyone across the country get access to the same quality of education.
According to UNCF, in 2011, only 57% of Black students have access to a full range of math and science courses necessary for college readiness, compared to 81% of Asian American students and 71% of white students. We intend to solve this issue by gamifying education to ensure minorities have equal access.
We are creating a platform that takes K through 12 students on an educational journey to learn the programming language Python. We want to gamify this experience, but also implement a functional learning environment.
In the next clip, we will show a brief prototype of our lesson planning to teach the material.
Welcome to SLID, and this is our prototype. You will start off with 2 options. You have start or quit. Once you press start, you will then enter your first lesson. Each lesson will be different, and they will cover different types of terminology, syntax, or different types of data types. Once you finish your first lesson, You will then enter your first quiz. The good thing about the quizzes is that each answer has a randomized path. So each time you click an answer, you will be taken down a different path. Thank you.
My name is Datavian Walker. I am a sophomore computer science major from Huntsville, Alabama.
My name is DeQuan Daniel, and I'm a sophomore computer science major from Gaston, Alabama.
Hey everyone, my name is Ola Shubumi Olakpo, rising senior computer science major at Alabama A&M University.
Hey everyone, Ms. Kamsi Ochukwurinze. I'm a junior major in computer science at Alabama A&M University, and we are Team Alabama A&M University.
Great job, great job, great job, team.
Can I go first?
Yes, Lakeisha.
I'm
What
excited.
advice do you have for Alabama A&M?
When you get this together, I want you to work with my organization because we could definitely use this. We do have a pipeline that we work with, and we're extending that from that K through 12. So I'm excited about that. And I think this is advantageous because when we look at competition in other areas, children are starting to learn Python at the age of 3. So thank you for targeting that K through 12 pipeline. I know this is your first iteration. So what will be helpful as you continue to develop this is, of course, graphics and pictures and simplifying the language, and then also identifying how the graphics and the language will be adapted from that K through 3, through that 3 through 6, et cetera, moving on. But overall, I'm excited. Make sure you stay in touch with me.
All right, thank you. Definitely will.
We have Dorothy Jones-Davis, one of our advisory board members, who's just joined us. Thank you, Dorothy.
Hi, great presentation. I'm sorry I'm late, everyone. I had a little conflict today. I apologize about that, but I did hear the last presentation.
Your sound is going out, Dorothy.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, is that better?
Yep.
Okay. So I just was saying that I thought it's a good beginning as well. I think one thing that you want to think about is how do you stand out from competitors? So, for example, Khan Academy is freely available to folks. There are other sort of initiatives and endeavors that are trying to teach Python and other types of coding to younger students. And so just being able to articulate, that about your competitors and that here's how we stand out, and here's how we might appeal to a minority base more than our competitors. Here's what we're doing to gamify things. So things like that are definitely very helpful. And then if you have the ability to do some work and do some focus groups with students that are able to try out your app, that also might be something that's helpful. Now that might be challenging to do if it's not fully ready in time, and that's okay. But just something to consider as you go towards like commercialization or doing this beyond even this challenge, just really thinking about, are there ways, is there early childhood program at your school, for example, that you could work with and find a student that has access to, for example, K-12 students that wouldn't mind partnering with you to test this out. And obviously there's a bunch of other pieces with testing out things in terms of IRBs and things like that, but it might be something to investigate for the next step. But good start.
Thank you.
The advice you've already gotten is great. I'm going to add like a really kind of, anyway, itsy bitsy small point. I am a chemist. I've heard of Python. I believe you when you tell me that computer science people think it's important, but just a little bit of context about why I, as a chemist, would want to engage my K-12 student. And again, there's this arc in terms of engagement. Clearly, I'm well out of an age where I learn new things easily. So we might need more than K-12. But anyway, just in terms of context setting, for those of us who don't understand sort of the impact and how that skill set might be used, putting that in context around the framework that you're providing, I think might also be helpful.
Thank you.
And then when you have that K-12, I'll start at the K level and work my way through your software.
Any other comments, suggestions? All right, terrific. Alabama A&M, thank you so much. We appreciate you providing that first video and look forward to the next video and seeing you all in September. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your feedback.
You're welcome. I'm going to move on to our next Morgan State video as requested.
Volunteer Fresh Food Delivery Service for Vulnerable Population, a mobile app-based community service presented by Morgan State University. Our team will cover United Nations Sustainable Development Goal Zero Hunger. The concept covers end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Meet our team of transportation engineers who are committed to use state-of-the-art technologies to reduce zero hunger by design, develop, and testing application in vehicle features and optimization model to connect nutritious food to people who are falling within vulnerable community. Our team is led by Dr. Mansoura Jehani, a professor in Department of Transportation and Urban Infrastructure Studies and Director of National Transportation Center at Morgan State University. People who are vulnerable to severe food insecurity are mainly from low-income distribution, people with life-limiting disabilities, older population, and people living in food desert areas. As a solution, we propose an architectural design of a mobile app where consumer can request volunteer drivers to deliver their food. Interested volunteer drivers will sign up using the driver sign-up interface with the necessary information in the app. Consumer can sign up using consumer interface. It will feed the information of available volunteer drivers. From the list, consumer can request the available volunteer driver to buy the groceries with the given list, images, or specifications. The volunteer will pick up and drop off the ordered items. Grocery bill from the user can be reimbursed by cash or using state-of-the-art money transfer apps. In a smaller scale, the audience of this prototype could be any community or neighborhood association who wants to protect its vulnerable residents. Considering the broader perspective, the architecture of the app can be adopted by any non-profit organization or government body that wants to serve the vulnerable population and want to reach the zero hunger goal.
Thank you so much. Great job. Great job, Morgan State. Very good.
If I could start.
Yes.
Love the concept, especially with being socially responsible. And I'm thinking about the Baltimore community with the usage of this and considering that West Baltimore area where there's still challenges with access to internet, and also where you have seniors that may not be able to operate apps and things like this. So it would be helpful to distinguish, is this app going to go directly to the person that can advocate for themselves? And in that instance, how are you going to overcome some of those barriers, related to the digital divide? Or are you going directly to agencies that can help deploy on behalf of the constituents themselves? So that would just be helpful if you could flesh that out as you continue to develop, but good job.
Thank you very much. That's a very good point. We do have that plan in the broader perspective and in detailed description, but in the very short video, we were not been able to accommodate that. But thank you very much for this because it is one of the challenges because if it's coming from a technology perspective, there will be users who are comfortable with that, and there will be a group of people who are not comfortable or do not have access to that. So building a bridge between that is what we have considered is involving the community association in a sense of like common places like church or community common places where kiosk service can be available to basically cater this service who doesn't have access to smart devices or internet like that. But that at this point, what we are proposing is very minimum viable product, which does not include that phase. But yes, that can be in the longer run, we can address that one. Thank you very much for your comment.
I think further to sort of identifying the population that might make most use of this might also be to think about how it fits within the landscape of resources that are already available and services that are already available. So people, not me, I haven't figured out how to shop online at my grocery store, but apparently people do that. And so that might be a step that can be combined with your app so that it's not necessarily the driver that's volunteering to do that shopping, but maybe more of a courier. And then thinking about in terms of identifying the populations, right? Thinking about sort of services that are already doing outreach to your target population and how to engage with them so that you're not having to recreate a wheel, right? But building on infrastructure that's there and how you're complementing that infrastructure or filling in a hole, maybe being a little bit more explicit about how that specific need is being addressed, mindful of the things that are available.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any additional comments from our advisory board? All right. Well, thank you, Morgan State. Great job. We look forward to seeing you all in September and seeing the new version of the pitch and hearing how you all improve upon it for the next video pitch and for your in-person pitch. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there any teams that would like to volunteer for the next video? I see Lincoln on here. I see Philander Smith on here. Okay, Dr. Cash, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Lincoln University video. Lincoln University. Thank you so much. I know that Dr. Cash and the team were going through it, trying to get the video together. So again, we are very happy that you were able to submit something and that our advisory board can provide advice for your videos. So I will open the floor to our advisory board.
Visuals are good, but there's nothing like hearing, someone tell a real story. And I think if you are able to adapt your presentation where you still have visuals, but you have a real person narrating along with it, it will be helpful so that we can quickly identify what the solution is as it relates to growing your own food and finding produce. So it's definitely something here. It would help to have someone help us identify the direction we should listen a little bit more closely in.
And I'll echo that. I think there's so much information provided that I think, having somebody to sort of guide along, okay, here's the most salient piece that you want to pay attention to, just really identifying where that solution is and what it is. And again, just distinguishing it as the best solution. So just, identifying that more crisply will improve the presentation. I think there's so much there, like in terms of different areas that they can pursue. So just, honing in on what that one or two areas that they really want to focus on and how do they want to, convey that to the rest of the world.
Well, it's actually going to be a series of 5 videos that will be available through our extension as free for K through 12 homeschoolers, everybody. And so I wanted to, we kind of thought we'd just give you a brief overview of like what topics will be covered in each video. And of course we forgot the introduction and it's too long and so it needs work, yes, but that was
that's why you guys are here. I think that this is the time for us to give you feedback to help. And that's actually part of why I know that AAAS and Iris and Neela and the staff at AAAS have pulled this together, is that, we want to make sure that we're guiding you along the way. So I think there is some really great content, and having you explain that, like even just that is like, wow, that's actually something that is really going to be useful. And to have it available through the extension program and, the work that's being done in K-12 through the extension, I think that's going to be incredible. So that in itself, even if you had one student just say that, like that would be amazing, right? So I think, kudos to you guys for, doing this. We know that it's really hard to get started. Getting started is the hardest part. And then, taking in all of the feedback is the best part of it.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And to take something that Brandon had actually said earlier, but it stuck with me because it was such a good point of advice was, in that context setting, probably providing some way for folks to access the software or the programming that you're going to make available, be it a website or a point of contact, or even, in terms of presenting to the judges, thinking about sort of how you're going to identify the audience that could best make use of it, right? So I know I'm in the tech transfer office, so just simply advertising something in one place isn't going to be the thing that grabs the attention and engages. So thinking about sort of how that advertising is going to happen to engage. And I did hear you talk about Ag Extension, and they have a great network, but maybe how a little bit of particulars about how you're going to target your audience to make sure that the information that you've compiled, which again, to Dorothy's point is great, is going to make an impact on that audience.
Yes, thank you.
So if we do not have any other comments, Dr. Cash, I know I see Cameron, I saw some of your students on here, but they can take away from what advice has been provided today. Redo the pitch and share it with us, and we'll be sharing it with our advisory board members who will be able to provide any additional feedback that you may need. So thank you. Again, I know that, you all were going through it, trying to put the video together, but we do see what you were compiling. So to see it all come together with actually having the students speak to it and speak to the resources that they're trying to provide, we look forward to seeing that. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So I see that I want to be mindful of time and Dr. Stimson's presentation. So Jason from Philander Smith, I would love to share your video. Are you Team EcoHome or Team Cycle It?
EcoHome.
Okay, I'll go ahead and share that. We'll get through that and maybe one additional one just so that we have time for Dr. Stimson so she can deliver her presentation, but I will go ahead and share your video. 1 second.
EcoHome is our solution to the sustainability issue within American households. It's a hybrid of hardware, which are ROT sensors, and software, which is a mobile application. EcoHome makes it easier for you to manage waste. You're able to track the volume of your trash and also schedule pickup. This makes it easier to manage waste in the home and in the community.
The water control section of our app allows you to track water consumption throughout the home and at various parts of the day. Additionally, our temperature control system allows you to set hot water temperatures to various appliances so you get hot water when you need it, saving both energy and water.
With EcoHome, you can track carbon emission in your home. You can track energy consumed weekly or energy consumed over time. You can track energy in individual spaces of the home, such as the living room, the guest room, and the kitchen.
And so, we believe EcoHome will be able to greatly reduce the issue of unsustainability within the American household. We trust that our system will make it easier to manage important aspects of the home.
Well done, good job. Jason, thank you for being representative for your team today. I'm gonna open the floor to our advisory board who can provide some feedback. But great job, Philander Smith.
Thank you.
I think this is an excellent start. I'll just say, it's really great to see. I think it does, you're very clear in your presentation. And I do appreciate how you were able to get to the core of the problem very succinctly, and also what your solution is and how it addresses those needs. So I think you did a superb job for this first pass, and I think it's really great. I don't really have much to say except I'm excited to see this develop. So I think you guys are already on a good track to continue to succeed. I think the only thing I would say is because it does involve, you show the app quite well. The only one piece of feedback I might give is that obviously it works with sensors. And I know there's not a lot of time in the pitch to explain both. You kind of had to pick, and I think you sort of picked right, but I do think it would be nice to, sort of understand a little bit about the sensors, the cost, if you happen to know the cost of that, because that's something that is a barrier to people's adoption of such technology. The app could be free, but if the sensors are $300 a piece, then I'm not going to do this, even if it saves me money. So understanding some of those nuances that would make people want to adopt the hardware as well as the software might be useful.
Thank you.
I would like to echo that. I'm excited about this. While I was watching the pitch, I already saw ways that you can sell this to other companies. But from that sensor perspective, just to echo that yeah, that's a key point. I didn't quite understand that piece. And then also, if you could describe any maintenance or whatnot required with those sensors. But from the last point, when you hit on the carbon emissions, I was like, oh, this is, amazing. So I'm looking forward to see this further develop.
Thank you.
The last thing I might say is just in terms of privacy, it's becoming an increasing issue with Internet of Things and sensors and where the data goes. So if there's a moment, which again, it's pushing it to get a lot into a small amount, but just thinking forward as to, where is the information going to be housed? Will that information be sold to companies, for example, power companies, or how would that be integrated into, existing structures? There are models of this, right? So thinking about like what Nest does and how it helps with reducing energy consumption. You could see something similar with water companies. Thinking through that model a little bit more might help you be more successful even beyond this challenge.
I understand. Thank you.
Laura, did you have any feedback? All right, wonderful. And so we have one more team that's present. We would like to just share them and then we will proceed with Dr. Stimson. We have faculty representation from Tuskegee University, so we want to be sure to provide them time so that Dr. Whittington can provide feedback to the team. And again, we'll be sharing these videos with you all so that all team members will be able to view. So Dr. Whittington, I'm going to pull up the Tuskegee video. 1 second.
Woohoo! Play it.
I'm on it.
Health Disparities Associates for Media Production is a media platform that will provide healthcare knowledge in a creative and easily accessible way that will deliver information to the community that lacks the resources and access to healthcare.
Health disparities can stem from health inequities, systemic differences in the health of groups and communities occupying unequal positions in society that are avoidable and unjust. However, disparities can exist across many other dimensions as well, such as gender, sexual orientation, age, and disability. According to Healthy People 2020, all of these factors, as well as race and ethnicity, shape a single person's ability to achieve optimal health.
Around 160 million Americans have listened to a podcast. Of this, 41% of the population listen to podcasts monthly, and 28% listen to them daily. And the United States currently has the most people enrolled in online learning with about 17.3 million. Why is this important? So this is important because if we're able to diversify our content through different media outlets such as podcasts and videos and courses, as well as an online store, we'll be able to make more profit as well as build our audience quickly. 26% of podcast listeners listen to health-related podcasts, with the majority of them being ages 25 through 34. Another benefit is that listeners will be able to share the content with others at will.
Investment for this project is currently as low as $350,000 and could potentially rise over time. The investment will cover the expenses for the project as far as marketing, equipment, office spaces, and just things like information technology that will help assist the project. The investor will receive about 20% of the profit and at least 15% of equity off of the $350,000 investment.
Thank you, Tuskegee University. Well thought out. Thank you. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Unfortunately, I'm one of those ones who don't listen to podcasts, so I don't buy my groceries online. I don't listen to podcasts. I don't understand Python. I am not the target audience for any of these. But as someone who doesn't understand any of this, right? I thought you set the stage for why this is needed. I'm not sure that I understand whether or not people would pay necessarily to learn about this, because there are, I think, resources online that are free. So maybe understanding a little bit more about the value proposition, about what it is that you're going to do that'll differentiate from free information. And it may be that it's curated, right? That you're compiling information that's particular to the population that you're going to target, but that might help in terms of context setting for the information that you're going to be presenting.
And I'll just piggyback that actually, when I was thinking about it, I actually think you might want to consider a different model, because I actually think that there are grants and things that you definitely could apply for that would pay for this, right? So, and that's not necessarily, I know we're trying to, drive you more towards commercialization in different ways, but that can include like, a business that becomes like a nonprofit or a nonprofit venture. And that's what this sounds more like to me, that you could get funding from, either private philanthropists or private funders, as well as government funding even, because this is something that has been identified by the president himself and throughout different agencies as something to be addressed, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals, right? So I think you have this really great opportunity to say, here's a population, here's a completely, inclusive sort of structure that we're creating around production of materials that will be targeted at these particular audiences. I really like the fact that it's multimodal, because I do think, like to Laura's point, there's somebody who's not listening to a podcast, but that, that person may be responsive to a phone call, and even like a phone line, like here's, a phone, I can call someone like me that can explain what my doctor explained. Maybe I'm too afraid to talk to my doctor because I don't know the language, and I wrote down what they said or what I thought they said, but I can't really understand it. As a person who has a PhD, I know in my family, I tend to be that person they come to with okay, my doctor said this, and I'm like, wait, spell that? Like, okay, and then I figure out the word they were actually trying to say. And so you could be that vetted sort of source, right? So I think it might be worth in this time thinking also about your business model, and considering a different business model. But I think that's an excellent idea, and I think it's definitely something that would be strongly supported.
I'd just like to share that I know that this information is needed. It would be helpful if perhaps you identified maybe your top 3 health disparities that you would cover first, and then identify those particular populations. And a suggestion as far as delivery, maybe give some consideration of incorporating it into a telehealth medicine platform, or perhaps even going into the metaverse just to differentiate yourself. But even that telehealth medicine platform, there's a huge opportunity there, if you want to explore it.
Thank you so much, Advisory Board. Thank you to all of our teams for sharing your video pitches. This was fantastic. It was great to hear from you all. And to, just kind of recash all of that, the teams are going to take all the advice that they received today. You're going to redo those videos. You're going to submit them back to me. We'll share them with our advisory board again, who will reach out to you with any additional feedback. But this is all, again, in preparation for September. We're really and truly excited to have you all here. And to kind of wrap this entire presentation in, we are going to bring Dr. Jennifer Stimson on. Iris will introduce her very briefly, but she is just going to lead with, what her experience has been as a AAAS If-Then ambassador and a woman in science, a woman in STEM, and how just, how we can learn to communicate our products, communicate our innovations, and how to create media content on that. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Iris, who you can briefly introduce Dr. Jennifer Stimson, and we'll turn it over to her.
Will be very quick because I want to leave the most amount of time for her. But 2 things really quickly for those of you I haven't met on the last sessions. I'm Iris Wagstaff. Very, very proud to serve as PI on this project. Neil and I are really thrilled about the innovations that you've shared today. We're really excited about seeing the refinements that you're going to make. So a quick point I want to make: if you have to leave early, please, please, please complete the survey I dropped the link in the chat. We really need your feedback on these sessions. So please make sure to complete the survey. And then another thing I just want to mention is kind of like an overarching theme from this session as scientists and bringing in my science policy background. We're always developing and refining the skill of communicating with what we call lay audiences. So that is definitely a huge kind of recurring theme that comes out of this, and not just audiences that might not have a scientific background, but for audiences that might not be in your STEM discipline. So for example, I'm a chemist as well, and might not be familiar with, computer applications. So just keep that in mind. You could be talking to a non-scientific audience or a scientific audience that just doesn't have any experience with your, field of expertise. So just always keep that in mind. Really being effective communicating your point. So I am thrilled to introduce Dr. Jennifer Stimpson. She's a friend and a colleague. I met her probably about 10 years ago when I invited her to present a science teacher workshop at our Novache conference. She is doing amazing work. I will drop her bio in the link so you can read all about her. I won't go through all of that, but she's a native of Dallas, Texas. She has a BS in chemistry, a doctorate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in education. She's an educator, a STEM advocate. She's doing amazing things. She's going to share a little bit about her role and just give you some tips for effectively communicating again with audiences and creating media content. So I will hand it over to her now.
Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you guys for allowing me to share a little bit of my story. I'm gonna put up some slides and I'm gonna go through them pretty quickly. But when we get to the point of, I have 3 slides that I created about conversations and things to consider as you think about how to communicate. I want you to think about what would your answers be to those questions. So here's a little bit about me, and it's just to get us started in conversation. And one of the things that we as individuals, as scientists specifically, especially science educators, we talk about this STEM empowerment, this idea of being encouraged, being empowered with science behind us. And so as I listened to your talks, I was thinking about how can you continue to elevate your voice in science? And that's really, even though this sounds cliche, it's having STEM empowerment, having this idea that your voice, your idea, your advocacy is important. And so you need to be empowered to share that moving forward. Oops, sorry about that. So a little bit about me. I call myself an educator, an innovator, and a scientist. And so as Dr. Wagstaff mentioned, I am also an If-Then ambassador. And so with AAAS, I am considered one of the women in STEM who has been called to inspire the next generation to consider science as their career choice. And even though my advocacy as a teacher begins in middle school, so, very young students, this idea that science ends by the time you graduate from college and you get your profession, no, it's ever evolving, it's ever growing. You guys just introduced these apps that are across multitudes of different platforms and different fields and genres. And that is hugely important. That's a sense of responsibility. And as an advocate and as an ambassador, that's what you are called to do. And so I honor you, all of you students and all of you faculty leads, because it takes a lot of work to mentor. Let's just start there. But all of you students who are engaged in this work, you are already ambassadors for the work that you're doing. You're already ambassadors for the ideas. You wouldn't be here listening to me at this point if you hadn't given up so much of yourself to be engaged in an opportunity such as this project and this program. As Iris mentioned, I'm from Dallas, so say something if you want to about my Dallas Cowboys. We're going to the Super Bowl this year, I promise you. I'm an alum of Dillard University, so I'm a proud HBCU alum. So all of y'all, shout out to everyone. And of all the schools, I haven't been to any of them except for Tuskegee, and Alabama A&M. I haven't been to Jackson State, I've been to Philander, so eventually I have to get to them. And as a scientist, I have done some amazing things. And so some of the highlights, I got to teach science in Africa. I have been to the Swiss Alps where I hiked them, and I got to stay in Floriana Island in the Galapagos. Because of time, I won't go into that, but Google that and see why that's important. Why Floriana Island in the Galapagos is important, because only 1,000 people are allowed to be on that island. So I get to say that I was one of those people to be on the island. And so one of the beautiful things about being an ambassador is that you're called, you have a sense of responsibility. You're called to serve. And as an if-then ambassador, my call to serve ended up with this little statue that you see me standing next to. If you live in DC, you might have had the opportunity to, well, I guess you don't live in DC, I'm sorry, but there are a bunch of statues on the mall, the National Mall in Washington, DC, and I actually had the honor of having my statue featured. And so this representation is huge, because so often do you see statues of men, particularly white men, but there are rarely statues of women. There are less than 10 statues of women that exist, of real women that exist in the United States. And there are probably 2 statues of Black women, and one of those Black women is Barbara Jordan. And her statue's is in the San Antonio Museum, San Antonio Airport. But the idea that there are women in science statues that exist, that is hugely a call to action to say that our voices matter. And being an educator is also important. I'm a K-12 teacher, I'm a science teacher, and having a statue that even says that in itself is important. So I don't take my work lightly, because it's a responsibility. And so what is this work that I do? I teach earth science, I teach chemistry to students every day. So when you got to college, I want to know that you had an inspiring teacher like myself to ensure that you made it through that your freshman year, because you got through organic chem, or you got through your chemistry class and your physics class. And, this idea of being an innovator, you don't just end when you graduate from college. You have a call to action. You will hear me say that throughout my presentation, because you are called to serve. And when you go to an HBCU, you have even a greater sense of responsibility, because the world is looking at you, because they want to make sure that you are going to be successful, which you are. And so how can you continue to innovate? And so like your projects that you've worked on, that speaks to that. How are you innovative and being able to create opportunities for the world to engage? The most important question that you can ask yourself is, what good is in the world and what good might I do in it? And so not what can I get, how much I can get, what's in the bag. I mean, you're gonna get the bag, that's fine, but what can you do in the world to bring the bag to you? And I was also a scientist. So before I was a teacher, I worked at the county morgue, and I worked with the Drug Enforcement Administration. So I played with dead people and I played with drugs before I decided to let all that go and become a teacher. So enough about me. It goes back to this call to action, this idea that you have a responsibility, you have to serve. And so your call to action has been to create an app that is going to change the lives of the people that you're hoping to serve. I mean, the one that I like the most is all of them. I don't want to say the most, but the one that struck out to me is how we eat as individuals. So this idea that there's too much fat in our foods and we're eating the wrong fats. I mean, as Black people, we have historically been undernourished our entire lives. Since we have been brought over here against our will, we've not been fed properly. And so our genes have been stressed to the point where we can't even appreciate healthy nutrients. And so we don't even have access to good food. So there's this whole, historical connection to why we don't eat healthy. And so the call to action of helping us eat healthy is hugely important. So the work that you're doing in health advocacy with the apps is really, really important. And yes, I need to get out right now and go ride my bike. So I love the bike app too. And I think about cities like Austin, cities like San Diego, which are huge bike cities, where your work in that app could be tremendous. So if there's opportunities for you to engage with city planners and city developers in that space, see about that. See if you can make that happen. That policy, that sense of responsibility. So enough about me, let's talk about you. And when I say you as a student, what are your interests? What are you doing to do in your practice? And that answers the question is, what is your purpose? As a student, you might think that your outcome is to graduate and get a degree and go get a check. I mean, that's eventually going to happen. But in order to really center your work, you have to be very interested in something, so much so that you would give up your life to do it. And what that means is giving up your life. That means I got the club, or I got to do my homework. I can go hang out with my homies, or I got to do this report. I got to figure something else out before I do this. So this interest, when I say give up your life, you are dedicating enough time to what makes what you're interested in doing. Everyone should carve out what I call deep study for their day. If you can carve out time to work on whatever that is of your interest, you'll be that much better. Thinking about how can you, there's a book I'm reading called Atomic Habits. If you've not picked it up, you definitely should. And one of the things that I love in that book is that how can you be 1% better every day? What does that look like? If you drink 8 glasses of water, can you drink 9? If you do 50 sit-ups, can you do 51? What can you do to become that 1% better than the day before? And this practice really just means, what are you doing every day consistently to work towards your interest? What are your routines that are put in place to help you build that? And once you figure out your interest and your practice and put those together, that equals your purpose. So think about interest plus practice equals purpose, because your interest is what you're practicing on a regular basis. And so when someone says, well, who are you? What are you doing? They already see that, because that is your purpose. And that goes back to grit. That's what are you grinding to do every day? So when someone says, so what's Jennifer doing? She's probably reading this book, or she's riding her bike, or she's doing something. So this purpose is centered on your identity. So work on those habits and that practice that centers on your identity, not the outcome. Because your outcome, you want to run so you can get better. So you meet your goal, then what? You have to work on another goal. Work on things that build your identity and make your identity stronger. Because all of you, as you listen to me now, you are great people, and all of you guys have a great purpose. And guess what you have to do? Create great opportunities. Again, that goes back to the app that you created. And that is this idea that because of what you created, the world will be a better place. That's that question I mentioned earlier. What good can I do in the world? Create an opportunity to change it, make other people's lives better. So these next series of questions, before I get into it, these are all rhetorical, but they go back to your media conversation. How can what I'm doing matter? So my first question is this: how do we collaboratively create the thread among knowledge, practice, and community in terms of education? So this question asks you, what can we do in the world to make the world better? And I'm sorry, it says tread and it should say thread. My fault. That's a thread. That's why you have the images accordingly. But how can we creatively create these things? So that is the question that you should ask when you're doing your iterations of your app. Does your response, does your delivery answer this? This doesn't mean, I think there's somebody was talking about emojis on, having better veggie emojis and all that. It's not the visible display. It is, what is it that the community, the least of those, can assess? Because here's what you need to think about. As you iterate these, your apps, who are the individuals using them? Okay. And then here's my next question. Is anyone on your team someone who has been a participant in the system that you are trying to change? Because that makes your your outcome even better. So if you are creating an app for people who have health disparities, but you have never been diagnosed with any kind of health disease, you've never even been in the hospital before, and no one in your family has, then are you the best person to articulate the results of the app that you're trying to convince? So to make your app better, have people who have either been a systematic statistic of the results you're trying to make, versus you trying to be the savior, trying to save the world by having a cool idea. Because here's what people don't do. People don't buy what you're selling. People buy why you're doing it. And so the people whose stories speak to you are the people who advocate for what's really important. So think about that as you create this. Who's using this, and how are they using it, and the community that's using it? how can that matter? That's the first question. Here's your second question. What is this third space of education? So as you are communicating what your results of your story is, this third space. So you have theory, you're sitting in class every day, your teachers are telling you all this STEM stuff, but you're also practicing. So how can you intersect theory and practice, create what's called the third space? And this is my own Jennifer Stimson third space, because that is where innovation happens. That is where change happens, because you go to school every day and you have book sense. I mean, you probably hear a lot of people talk about, oh my God, my daughter's so smart. My son goes to XYZ school. He graduated a 4.0. You might be the smartest person that ever graduated from your school. And that's great. And that's an honor. And I honor you because that means something. But how can you utilize your intellectual capacity that people celebrated you when you walked across that stage in high school to get to your HBCU, and all of the practice that you are called to do? That's what sets you apart. That's what's going to set your app apart. What is this third space, this innovation that is going to set your work apart? So again, the iterations that when you go back and change, as Ms. White said, you got to go back, and when you come back in September, how can someone say, oh my God, that is innovative, because they have used the theory and the practice, and your theory could be from what worked in 1970, because there's the way we even ate in 1970 is different than what we're eating in 2021. But the past doesn't always mean bad. It means how can we bring it forward? So think about what the third space of education is, and that's what sits in between theory and practice. And so here's my last question. One of the things that you need to think about as you communicate your changes is, what does a STEM educated person look like post-pandemic? We're about to enter into fall of 22. This will be the quote unquote first time we won't go into mass. There probably will be no virtual classes. So we're going back to school like it was fall of 2019. So what does that look like? So as you think about what does a post-pandemic person look like, we have had 2 very intentional years of out-of-person learning. And we've also learned a whole lot. We also have a lot of people have a lot of opinions. And so as you enter into school in the fall, think about what does that look like? Because that's going to be the audience that you want to communicate to, because you are going to be the people who are post-pandemic STEM educated people, because you're still in the space. I'm already out, I've already graduated. So I'm not a STEM educated person, but I'm looking to you to say, well, okay, this is what you can teach me. This is what's necessary. Do we need more apps? Do we need less apps because we were online for 2.5 years? What does a STEM educated person look like? And how can the work that you're doing with your apps articulate that? Because if I think Shark Tank was on the call, or Shark Tank might be one of the people, though you now have the platform, you meaning the students creating the apps, have the platform to make those changes to say, all right, we think that a STEM educated person is going to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, because now we have that. And, my phrase, you've heard of this phrase, from BC to AD, you know what those mean, before Christ to ad dominium, but now BC to AD, this is the Jennifer Stimson translation, is before Corona to after disease. So what are you doing to change that? So this question I came up with is, what does a STEM educated person look like after the pandemic? Because we don't know. And that's what we're hoping that you are going to make a change with. And then here's my last slide. So I want you to think about this. And that is, the future and promise of STEM education depends on who is absent from the conversation and how we can build capacity across education platforms. And so far too often people have talked about DEI, DEI, DEI. And yes, there's not enough Black people at the table. There's not enough women at the table. There's not enough Native Americans at the table, but there's also not enough people who speak differently. If you're an attorney in a room full of educators, there's not enough of your voice in the room. If you're a teacher and you're in a policy, there's not enough of you in the room. So we also have to go beyond diversity and inclusion. We need to really think about what that inclusivity means in terms of who's absent, not racially, but who thinks differently. Do we have any autistic perspectives that are in there? Are you all people who are creating these apps? Are you assuming that these are going to be cisgender people using the apps, or people who have capacity? But are we thinking about people who are autistic, who are dyslexic? What if somebody who needs your app in any of those places are head of household, but they are dyslexic? Does your app speak to them? Again, this innovation, theory and practice, if you can be the smartest person in the room, then you've thought about every aspect of what that looks like. Okay, that's hugely important. And so I leave you with this. So how can you use STEM as a catalyst for service learning? So your apps are a result of that, but what is the catalyst that you're using to make changes in the community with your app? So one of the things that I want you to think about as you go forth before you meet up in September is, how is your app differentiated from what's already out there? And what makes it stand out? And how can you articulate that audibly or visibly or user-friendly in that space? And, thinking about what that looks like. I have a friend on a tragic accident. I mean, and doing something and slammed a finger in the door and lost the tip of her finger. Okay. And so again, when we think about normal people, normal user-friendly kind of things, can your app be utilized by someone who doesn't have a limb? And if so, how? I mean, so we have to be intentional about thinking about what is absent and who is absent from the conversation. It doesn't always mean racially. It means ability. It means sense of inclusion. So those are some things that I challenge you to think about as you think about what service learning looks like. And so this is my last slide. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, I'm happy to do so. Please make sure that you know that there is an E in the in my social media last name, but not in real life. There's an I in my last name, and it's a phonetic spelling on the word STEM. Thank you so much, ladies, for allowing me to chat. I don't know what the time situation is like, but I'm happy to engage in any kind of conversation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stinson. Thank you so much for taking, time out of your busy schedule. Thanks again also to our advisory board members for taking time out of their busy schedule. We're glad that you could join us today. And we hope that this session has been helpful to all the teams. So I will end there. I put the link to the survey in the chat. And then also, let me just quickly, unless Neela has any closing remarks, we've been sharing amazing opportunities on our social media, on our LinkedIn and Twitter account. So if you have not joined our LinkedIn account and not following us on Twitter, you're missing out on some great opportunities, especially over the last few weeks that we have shared. So I will put a link to that in the chat again, but please definitely follow us there because we are sharing amazing opportunities there. Neela, did you have anything that you wanted to end with?
No, I think that you've said it all, not only with that speech, but also in our chat. We have been building this program this year based on the feedback that we have received in previous years. So please fill out those post surveys. Please reach out to us on social media, email us with any questions. We want to make sure that we are supporting you for the full journey of this. You are our cohort, but you're a part of a fuller community of the AAAS HBCU Making an Innovation community. Dorothy has some great opportunities that we are reposting. She's shared on LinkedIn. $50,000 is good money. So please take a look at the information that we're disseminating. It takes 2 seconds to view it, to share it with your students, to share it with your colleagues, to share it with your peers. So make sure you are following us and viewing our social media messages. I have no other words. Again, I just wanted to thank Dr. Stimson and all of our teams for sharing today. We really appreciate how this community has been working this year and being able to be engaged with each other. So thank you all so much.
Thank you all for joining us. And just one more closing thought. The skills that you all are developing, this goes beyond this project. Again, as scientists, we're, when you get in our places, we have to make the case for money, for funding, for grants, for opportunities. So all of this, this is a professional development opportunity that goes way beyond this innovation project and, where your current status is right now. So this is a skill that you will need in the future to make the case for anything that you're trying to get support for, whether it's funding, your local congressperson. This all goes to making your case to get what you want, and really communicating what it is you're trying to do, and really getting support for that. So it definitely goes beyond that. So thank you all. I know we ran a few minutes over. I have to run, but thank you all again to Jennifer and our board members, and then to these amazing teams. You're doing great work. Have a great rest of your day and week.